All right, welcome into another edition of the Patriot Nation podcast. It, of course, is an instant reaction to the Patriots' loss in the Meadowlands. This, of course, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel, which is the official sports wagering partner of CLNS. Go to FanDuel.com/Boston to sign up today. Matt, it was an ugly, ugly game, but here's what I'm going to say. No matter what happened, there was only one song that could be played at the beginning of this instant reaction podcast, playing in the Meadowlands against Tommy DeVito. Cue the goddamn music. Let's go.
Woke up this morning, got yourself a gun. Your mama always said you'd be the chosen one. She said, the one in a million, you got to burn the shine.
Puts me in the mood for a chicken cutlet right here.
We like this.
That's what happened for dinner, Pat.
I love it.
Oh man. What? Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's enough. What a show. It brings me back, man. Brings me back. I binge watched that show fairly recently, I think, the last few years, and it's a hell of a show.
I gotta watch The Sopranos. I'm way behind on my TV. But
it's incredible.
Watching this Patriots team though, like this isn't like you're watching The Sopranos. This feels like that TV show that you love that's in season like 7 and the writers are out of ideas. And it's supposed to be like the last season of the show.
You mean
so
like Game of Thrones?
Yeah, you're gonna see it out through the last episode because you want to see what happens and you put so much time and effort into it, but you're just kind of sitting down in front of the TV, putting it on and just waiting for the episode to be over. That's the Patriots right now.
Right. Look, people are, Chad Rowling on the Steve assignment, LFG, a top 3 pick, still secured. Belichick playing chess, number 2 pick. And listen, so I'm gonna talk about this in a second, but Knicks run the Eastern something. I'm not sure what the whole thing says, but I'm with him. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. That ain't happening. Mac Jones sucks. Bailey Zappi sucks. They all suck. They're all terrible. Will Greer's terrible. Like, I know people are like, oh, Will Greer's terrible. He's an awful quarterback. We know this. We've seen him play. He's really bad. Malik Cunningham should be the starting quarterback for the Patriots. I just don't like. Why not? Because you can't throw the ball anyways. You literally can't throw the ball. Mac Jones can't make a good throw. Bailey Zappi, look, man. Bailey Zappi. I mean, I just read it to you, right? But like, if you head over to my guy, who is it that I was saying had the Nesson guy, Zach Cox. So Zach Cox had a tweet about his what the hell? Why doesn't he come up? Zach Cox had a tweet about Bailey Zappi. Okay, and this isn't the whole game, but Bailey Zappi's air yards per completion: -3, -5, -4, 5, 1, -3, -2. He's not throwing the ball past line of scrimmage.
And when he finally did, it gets picked.
Right? Like, if he finally threw it behind the pass line of scrimmage, it gets picked off. He goes into triple coverage in a place that you're just like, what in the world was he? How would he ever think that was going to be a good pass? And then Bobby Okereke knocks down the pass on 3rd down. And if he didn't knock that pass down, Deion Banks is undercutting that route. It was going to be another interception. So it's just one of those things where it's like they're both bad. And at this point, I don't understand, and we've talked about this before. I talked about it with Keegan this week. We talked about it after the Colts game. I just don't understand how you can continue to put Mac Jones in the game unless you're actively trying to lose games. What have you seen from Mac Jones that makes you think that he can win you games? Because I have seen nothing from him.
When he's gotten worse with every game this season.
Yes.
Remember week one when the Patriots had 3 touchdowns against a team that just went to the Super Bowl and looked like they almost were able to complete a game-winning drive? Like, remember that Mac Jones? I'm not sure if he does.
I know.
And that was 2 months ago, like 2.5 months ago.
Right.
Watching him fall like this is crazy, and you can't trust him out there. And I mean, you
Yeah.
can't trust Zappy, you can't trust any of the guys you're putting out there. But I think it's pretty clear that Mac is not the guy, and you can't be a guy who's playing like that, yelling at your teammates, even if they're messing up, which it looked like they were. You
I
just
agree.
can't be that guy.
Yeah.
So I don't, I don't know if I'm on board with Cunningham, but I think it's got to be somebody other than Mac from here on out. I think you probably give Zappy a couple of games here and just
Right.
the other thing is you are kind of not. I mean, you're not trying to lose games, but you're trying to lose games. And
I mean,
I
what other
think
explanation do you have?
Zappy's probably your best option for that right now. Is a guy who can make this look somewhat competent, but and like give you a chance to evaluate your players, but also he's going to lose you games. Cunningham's not even on the roster, so they would need to sign him and free up a roster spot if that's what's going to happen. Which there's a lot of guys on this roster who are just bodies. It wouldn't be hard for them to cut somebody and bring him up. But
Yeah. Well, and so this is and look, this is so there are two quotes here, right? Two things that I want to bring up. One of them is Ashley J said both are not good, but Zappy's a better player. And then the other one was a little bit earlier. Charlie Foxtrot here said, "Does Mac have the yips?" And so this is my thing. I think that Mac is a better player than Bailey Zappi. I think in practice, you see that he's a better player than Bailey Zappi. If you were going to sit at practice, and we're not watching practice anymore, but like if you were going to sit at practice and watch a full practice, you would look at it and say, Mac Jones is making the right read. He's making the right throws. He's commanding the offense better than Bailey Zappi is. And you'd say, okay, Zappy's fine. He does okay, but he just doesn't look as smooth as it does with Mac Jones. But then when Sunday rolls around and you get real bullets flying and you get actual defenders coming at you that can hit you, for whatever reason, Mac Jones just completely loses his mind. And whether he has the yips or whether I don't know what the reason is, but it's awful. It's awful. And you can't do it. And so, like, no matter what happens in practice, we've seen enough now in the games where we can look at it and just say, man, he can't get it done on Sunday. He can't. No, I'm sorry.
And it's, well, I think the most eye-opening thing was you watch Bailey Zappi have much better pocket presence than Mac Jones.
Yep.
And that was one of the things that was supposed to be a strong point of his, and it's gone. And whether it's the yips or development or himself or whatever we want to say that's doing it, it's gone. And Zappi can move around better in the pocket. So I think when it comes to, I think in some ways the single most important thing for this offense for the rest of the way is evaluating the offensive line. I don't even think you can do that with Mac Jones right now because he is so unpredictable back there and has no feel for what's going on.
Yeah.
Zappi at least has some degree of feel for what's going on there. And that's the other issue with Cunningham. I like the idea of bringing him up, but if you're doing that and it's going to be all QB run, then you're kind of wrapping it up on evaluating your pass blocking for the year here at Thanksgiving. And I think, we got to see what we got in these guys because you're trying to figure out who your offensive line is going to be next year. So, I mean, I would go Zappi for that reason. And, you look at the standings right now. If Arizona is able to beat the Rams today, the Pats are going to be in the driver's seat for the number 2 pick. And then it's the Bears via the Panthers there at number 1, and then a whole bunch of teams with 3 wins. So if the Patriots were to lose out, they'd be guaranteed the number 2 pick, and depending on what the Panthers do, you might be able to get the number 1 overall pick.
That's true. That, by the way, as Jacoby Myers just scored another touchdown for the Raiders, but nevertheless, I just look, it's a situation for me that it drives me crazy, right? It drives me crazy watching the games. And again, it's, I really do think it has something to do with that. But one of my big things for me is that look at the way Bailey Zappi played today. He didn't play great. He was fine. Right? He threw a really bad interception. He threw a few other almost interceptions, and he made some nice plays. But when he comes out and plays with confidence, the team can feel that. right? The team can feel that he's playing with confidence, and then they play with more confidence as well. And so, like, you see Ramondre running harder. You see guys making blocks for longer. You see him avoiding guys and making throws and guys making plays in the passing game, right? Like, you see these things happening that just frankly weren't happening with Mac Jones. And it's like, okay, the offense is watered down and it's not, but like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, the guys play better when Bailey Zappi's on the field. And they just look better. The players look better when Bailey Zappi's on the field. He's not doing anything different. It's just
I think a lot of that has to do with two things. One, when the quarterback gets benched and the backup comes in, everybody else is like, "Oh, we better tune our games up here." I also think you brought up the stat about how far he's throwing the ball down the field. It's easy to play with confidence when every single play is one read, throw it to a guy who's 10 feet from you. And I think we saw this last year too, because Zappi mostly played bad defenses where they could win with simple game plans.
Yeah.
And when it's a simple game plan, I think everybody has more confidence. I think it's clear everybody in this offense, and that's, Mac included, but not just him, doesn't know what's going on with the Bill O'Brien, complicated offense, and didn't know what was going on last year. And, we saw the mental errors in 2021 too with McDaniels there. Aguilar and Jonnu Smith were the guys we blamed at the time, but I'm starting to think it really is just the players, regardless of the coaching, and that these guys need to be in a simple offense, and a simple offense can get you a touchdown or drive or two. It's just not sustainable over the long run, which is perfect for what the Patriots need for the next month and a half as they go for the number 1 overall pick.
Right.
But the season's over. I said this on Twitter, but I'll say it again here. None of these quarterbacks should be in the room next year. None of these guys should be in the building.
Right.
It should be probably 3 or 4 new quarterbacks when we come out for training camp in July. Like, you can't trust any of these guys. You need new leadership too, I think, emotionally, for whoever's going to be there. And it's just, you're going to have to tear it all down. And
I agree.
The result of knowing that now is that you're going to go the next 6 weeks with lame duck quarterback play where, it doesn't. I mean, we can debate this all we want, but it's not going to matter at the end of the day. I don't think any of us thinks that any of these options are going to become a franchise quarterback. So,
well, and that's the thing, is that you can't win with these guys. You can't. You cannot win with these guys. And look, I know their receiving core isn't that good. I know that their skill players aren't good enough, and that their offensive line is okay but not great. But at the end of the day, I don't understand when, like, you can't win with Mac Jones. You can't. And we've seen that. Like, you cannot win with Mac Jones. You just can't. Like, he was supposed to win with his mind. The idea behind Mac Jones is that he was the guy that could see things pre-snap, make the right read post-snap, get the ball to the open guys, confuse defenses, and and make plays. Not like Tom Brady, but similar to what Tom Brady used to do, where Brady would, mentally understood the game so well. That was the whole thing about him, right? But I don't understand. Like, we don't see that from him at all. He almost always makes the wrong read. He makes awful throws, like, so often. It's just bad. And he just, and again, like, I think it looks like he has zero confidence. Like, you just watch him watch him play. It looks like he's like struggling out there on every single play.
He's completely broken. Pocket presence is gone. And I'm going to be honest, I was somewhat skeptical of some of the X's and O's football knowledge coming out of Alabama. Not that you're dumb coming out of there, but the tape showed a guy who was making a lot of throws on his first read because it's Alabama and he had some of the best receivers in the country to throw to. Right. And I think now that he's put in more difficult situations in the NFL, his mind is not able to do that at NFL speed. It just can't handle that. He looks like a rookie out there mentally right now, still in year 3. And the mechanics also they've never been fantastic, but they've gotten worse now with every single year. So it's all falling apart. We came into the season thinking that Mac Jones could be, a Kirk Cousins level guy here. And what I will say is, I think in some ways it's better for the direction of this organization that this happened and it went this way than if he stayed at the quarterback play we got last year. Because if it's the quarterback play you got last year, you end up in a Daniel Jones situation where you feel like he might be something, so you got to pay him, but nobody really feels good about that. Then you'd rather, I mean, obviously the best case is that he's the franchise quarterback, but if he isn't, the next best is that I think
you want to know.
You know enough
that
to
he's not.
fully tear it down.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And so, we'll see. It's so funny. The chat's going crazy right now. People are shouting about the fact that people are defending Mac Jones. No one's defending him. There's not one person defending Mac Jones.
All these dudes. And it's like Zappy. Zappy played better than Mac, and the offense looked better with him out there, but they got exactly one touchdown drive and one other drive that could have been scoring and one of the worst interceptions. I mean, Zappy's thrown some of the worst interceptions we've seen this year. So he's not good. He just is a different brand of bad than Mac Jones that I think right now lets you see what's going on with the other guys a little bit better.
Right. And KT, you did not hear that, right? No, I did not say at one time. I didn't say he played well because he didn't play well. He does play with a little bit more confidence than Mac Jones has right now because Mac Jones has zero confidence.
Zappy plays with too much confidence.
Yes.
That's his issue. Right. He needs
But I do think it rubs off on the rest of the – I mean, I think that you see the players out there playing better. And whatever the reason was, I don't know what the reason is, right? And it could be like you said that the quarterback gets benched and you're thinking, oh, shit, we better play better, right? Or else we're going to get benched too. Or maybe they just think – well, now that Mac is out, we got to, we have to play harder because we have the backup quarterback instead of starting quarterback. Or maybe, who knows what the reasoning is, but you get more out of your guys when Zappy is your quarterback than when Mac is. And doesn't make sense, but it happens. So I don't know what the reasoning is.
Yeah. When I think, looking at this big picture too, and I think when we look at kind of the failures in the offense since 2019, and even when Tom Brady was here, I think one of the ways the offense was always so successful with Brady was that Brady was so smart at understanding the game and also so good at teaching the other players and getting them on the same page with him that they could run these incredibly complex offenses where players have to hold a lot of information in their heads at one time and then go out there and make the plays. And I think that to an extent, they're trying to do a lot of the same stuff now. Yeah. And it's just too much for these guys. And it's not like that's also on some of the receivers. I think that's one of the reasons it looks better when it's simple, because these guys you got a lot in your head that you're trying to figure out. And then also when they break it down to their simple concepts, a lot of it's the same stuff over and over again. And it has been since 2021 with McDaniels. I mean, that go back to early in the game, Devontae Parker getting targeted on that slant when he was one-on-one and, almost picked off and he slips on it or whatever, never had a chance. You know why that never has a chance? Because basically every single time that the Patriots get a receiver one-on-one over there, he's running a slant. That's right. Every time that's what's going on. And if it isn't a slant, if he's doing something else, Parker's not that quick. So if the corner gambles and misses, he can recover and get back. And that's where this offense needs some speed and needs some arm strength, because nothing about it threatens you down the sidelines. Not the receivers, not the tight ends, not the quarterback, and the offensive line can't protect long enough to make it happen either. And that's, if you can't attack down the sides of the field ever, you're going to have a really, really tough time.
Right. Well, and that's part of the reason why, I don't know, but which, by the way, all right, just to get off on a little tangent here, Jalen Hyatt is the guy they wanted Tyquan Thornton to be. Yeah. They drafted Tyquan Thornton to be a speed guy who could push the ball down the field, who would allow their quarterback to push the ball down the field and could win on comeback routes and deep routes and things like that. He can't do that. Jalen Hyatt can. He is that guy that the Patriots wanted Tyquan Thornton to be. So,
and I don't even think Hyatt hasn't even been that good for the Giants this year, right?
No, he hasn't had many catches.
He was just going against J.C. Jackson today, and Tommy DeVito made a couple nice throws, which credit to Tommy DeVito. I mean, I thought he played a relatively decent game. It's not like the Giants scored a lot, but I thought he was all right. He looked serviceable out there. He's a better backup quarterback than the Patriots have. I saw this tweeted earlier, and it's mind-boggling. Tommy DeVito, I think, is the best quarterback in New York right now who's healthy.
which is wild to think about. But I mean, like, it's pretty
Tommy
hard to
DeVito
argue
or
against.
Tim Boyle, like,
Right. It's pretty hard to argue against that. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
I don't know. Well, and Charlie's just mentioning the officiating. I mean, the Bob Douglas play, I just don't understand how that's not a penalty. It's a clothesline. Like it's a clear clothesline.
And
We sit
you're
here and
allowed to
talk about
clothesline
player
to like
safety,
the
and
chest, but you can't do that to the head. You just can't hit guys. And if for whatever reason, if that was the correct call and that's not a penalty, then we should be changing the rule because you shouldn't
correct.
be able to
Yes.
just do that. And that's the second or third time this year we've seen a Patriots receiver get practically decapitated out there and no flag,
No flags. Yeah.
which is a little bit frustrating to say the
Yeah.
least.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yet I'm sure. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a fine on that this week, which is great,
Which
but
is
it doesn't
great.
put Demario Douglas back on the field.
Correct.
And doesn't help you in that game either.
Yeah, it's just bad. It's just bad. And listen, you're right. People are correct in wanting the Patriots to lose. Right? You want to see the Patriots lose at this point. There's no point in winning. It doesn't matter. It's like what the Jets in the last game of the season in 2020 won, right? And so they ended up with the number 2 pick instead of the number 1 pick, and they drafted Zach Wilson instead of Trevor Lawrence. Like, it changes the trajectory of your team, right? Of your entire franchise. Now, the Jacksonville won today; they're in first place in the AFC South, and meanwhile, Zach Wilson is on the bench again. This time, bench for a guy that has never been a starter at any level. Well, not at any level, but at any point of his career in the pros. And so, winning doesn't solve things right now. But I also believe you can't intentionally lose. You can't.
No.
You can't tank because there's too many guys that want to win. And if you're out here trying to lose games, like what happened at the end of the game today was unacceptable. I understand. I get it. I know you're in field goal range, but they didn't even try. They didn't even try to score a touchdown. Win the freaking game while it's right there. And instead of trying to win the game, they went for the tie to go to overtime. What the hell is that?
And it's the snowball effect of a bunch of things that, they probably should go for it. But also every single time they've asked Zappy to throw the ball more than a foot down the field, he's been throwing it right to defenders. So you feel like you have to play for the tie. And it's just the whole thing is a losing strategy because you put yourself in that spot by mismanaging the personnel. And we talked for a while about how we talked this offseason about the youth movement. We're happy that they got youth guys in there. Well, it turns out they were banking on young guys being good, and all the young guys stink.
They sure
You're
do.
banking on Zappy being a backup quarterback. He can't do it. You're banking on Pierre Strong and Kevin Harris being backup running backs. They can't do it. You're banking on Tyquan Thornton being at least a backup wide receiver. He barely even looks like a guy who belongs on an NFL team out there right now. You're banking on Jack Jones being able to step up and be one of your starting corners. He is off the team now. Who else is in here that I can name for this?
All of them. Anyone that you were
banking on. Banking on Antonio Maffi as a rookie to come in and at least be a good guard for you, backup guard, and he can't even be a backup guard for you right now. You don't feel comfortable with him out there. Basically, every single young player that you've asked to take on a bigger role here and play well has not lived up to it. And you just can't build a team that way. That's the issue. And the veterans that they've signed haven't been good either. But it's a different problem. If you're drafting guys who can't even give you competent backup level play, you got no shot.
Right. Yeah, it's just tough, man. And that's I feel like they've just missed and missed and missed and missed and missed. And that's just my God. It's bad, and again, it comes down to the reason why Bill Belichick is going to be out of here, and the reason why you just can't continue doing what they've done. It was bad,
and they won't. Oh, here's the thing. I mean, after that, I think everybody sees the writing on the wall. It's been there for a while, and it's only getting bigger and bigger there. There's no way that this continues into next year. It's going to be substantial changes of some kind. There's no way Kraft is okay with this. There's no way Bill is okay with this, but I don't think he's going to be around to see what happens next. And I think it's pretty clear you need a fresh voice of some kind, even if, I think Bill can still be a very good coach in this league. And I don't think he's totally lost it or anything, but I think you need new ideas. You need a fresh voice emotionally as a leader in that room for those guys to connect with. And we're stepping into the abyss now. Welcome. I think that the post Brady, post Bill world is here. It's about to get very cold outside for the Patriots, and we'll see if they can find ways to get through this. And you're gonna have ammo here. You're gonna pick high, and you make the right choices. You can be right back in the NFL, championship conversation in 2, 3, 4 years if you play your cards right. But every team is in that spot. You got to execute when you get there. And there's a lot of teams that get to that spot and mess it up. So that's your first step here. How do you not mess it up?
That's it. I agree. All right, let's do a quick ad, and then we'll just kind of finish up. We don't have too much longer to go here, but let's do a quick ad, and then we'll come back. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. MA 21 plus and present in Mass. Hope is here. First online real money wager only. $5 pre-game moneyline wager required. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. GamblingHelpLineMA.org or call 1-800-327-5050 for 24/7 support. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com or call 1-800-GAM-1234. All right. I don't even look. It's ugly. It's as ugly as it's ever been for the Patriots, at least in my lifetime. Or that's not true, but at least that in my lifetime that I can remember. Not in my lifetime, because it's been pretty bad in my lifetime. 1992, they went 2-14, and they were really, really bad. But it's one of those things that people forget those things. And by the way, they went 2-14. The Seahawks went 2-14, and they did a coin flip to see who get the first. And the Patriots got the first pick. So that's why you ended up with Drew Bledsoe and not Rick Meyer, who won Rookie of the Year and then sucked over for the rest of his career. But nevertheless, So but look, you see what one quarterback can do. The Texans were terrible last year. I mean, atrocious last year. They fired their coach. They hired DeMeco Ryans, a young coach who the guys like and respect. They draft C.J. Stroud. They draft Tank Dell. They draft Will Anderson. And now all of a sudden, I know they lost today because Matt Amendola attempted a 58-yarder instead of a 57-yarder, but like they were close. They're right there. They're right on the edge of the playoffs immediately, right away. And so you need that. You need the change. You got to change. Get rid of Bill. Get rid of, in my opinion, it can't even be Mayo. You got to the whole coaching staff's got to go. Everyone's got to go.
Yeah. And I think I could be on board with Mayo only because I think of how things have worked out there with DeMeco Ryans down in Houston. Mayo might be similar, but I think one of the things I think I do want to see here is a guy who's been in multiple spots. I think you ideally want a guy who's been a former player. I think we've seen that work out pretty well.
Right.
It's not a must, but I'd like to have it if that's there. I think a must is a guy who's coached in multiple situations and has learned from multiple guys. I think that's something that you want to bring in, and then you go from there and you figure it out. I do want to say, I forgot to mention before, we were talking about counting on young players and rookies to step up. Didn't even mention Chad Ryland in that. And moving on from Nick Folk was absolutely the right move. He's a 39-year-old kicker who lost you games last year because he couldn't even reach the end zone on kickoffs, and teams were returning kicks on you all the time, who was missing kicks short under 50 yards. You can't bring a guy like that back. Like, he's not the guy. So you have to draft somebody. And I think we knew that there were I don't know if Ryland's the guy or not. I think we knew there were going to be issues. Yeah. And with young kickers, things happen. But I think you'd like to see him play better than this. I also think you feel better about this if he misses a kick and it's the difference between 6-5 and 5-6. You feel a little bit better about it than 2-8 versus 2-9 right now. Right now, it just feels like another thing on the pile.
Yeah, but then people will argue, as they have been doing, that you need the draft pick, and so you don't need to win the game, and I get that. I will say, Adam Vinatieri, as a rookie in 1996, missed some really easy kicks. It was a Jacksonville game, I think they ended up winning, but he missed like 4 kicks, and I think he ended up kicking the game-winning field goal, but he missed a bunch of kicks in that game. I think he kicked the game-winning field goal in overtime, but like it was like the game shouldn't even been in overtime. He was like 0 for 3 kicking, and then he finally hit one to win the game. But it just, guys are going to struggle. That's going to happen. I think we've seen Ryan be up and down a little bit inconsistent. But it's a situation that I think that bears watching for sure, because you don't know if he's going to be your guy moving forward, right? So,
and that's another the other thing here too. You only have so many assets to go acquire new players, and kicker's not usually going to be a huge use of assets. You're looking at a day 3 pick or minimal free agent money, but it would be nice if you can go into the future knowing you have your kicker and your punter locked up on cheap deals, rookie contracts for the next 3 years, and you should be able to keep them around after that and not have to worry about it. That would be a nice thing for the next guy to not have to worry about. And we can't say that comfortably yet.
It's frustrating. Jim Nagy, by the way, just tweeted out, QB dominoes already starting to fall in college football less than 24 hours after regular season ends. Wild West in here. Wild West is here. I'm sorry. Wait till the reports start getting out. So now, Jim Nagy runs the Senior Bowl, and so he may be getting information about guys, transferring to other places. He may be getting information about some guys thinking about going to the pro and some guys not, or what, I don't know. But that's really interesting to me, for a team that needs a quarterback. That's going to be something that bears watching, because again, how is that going to impact what the Patriots do? And who is going to be available when the draft rolls around, right? Is Cade Williams going to want to be around?
And what I think
stay. Drake May going to come out. You know what I mean? Like, I think those guys are going to come out, but I don't know.
And I think the names to watch: J.J. McCarthy, Shadur Sanders, Quinn Ewers from Texas are the guys who may or may not come out. J.J. McCarthy is a guy who kind of liked as a developmental guy in theory for a while, but the track record on quarterbacks who only started 1 year in college is not great. And I think he's shown some real flashes. But for anybody who watched that Michigan-Ohio State game, it's not like J.J. McCarthy's out there tearing it up.
No, they didn't trust him to either.
And I think that it's less to do with him and more to do with the offensive line. I think they felt like they could just maul Ohio State on the ground, and we've seen them do this. They've had issues with the pass protection, but not with the run blocking. So they just like to run the ball, and it works. So I don't think that's an indictment of J.J. McCarthy, but he does not have a ton of experience. And, I like the tools, and I like the upside, and I like the mentality he has. He's not a guy I feel comfortable using a high draft pick on from what we've seen in college. There's just not enough out there against high-level teams. And talk about dominoes falling. He's a guy who I'd wonder if he would consider going back to college for another year. We'll see. Michigan, presumably, with a win next Saturday, will be getting some playoff looks here, and he'll get opportunities against bigger opponents, and that could change things. But
and Ewers is an interesting case, because you have to think with Arch Manning, you got to think Ewers is not going to be the quarterback at Michigan at Texas next year, right? Arch Manning is there. You got to assume he's going to start. And so if Ewers doesn't want to come out, he's going to have to leave and go somewhere else, right? I mean, because what choice does he have? The Texas is going to be like, hey, buddy, like we're starting Manning next year. If you're here, fine, you can be his backup, but you're not playing. And so if he doesn't want to come out to the NFL because he thinks like there are some things I have to still fine tune in my game, then he can look at it and say, no, I'm going to stick in another year. I'm going to transfer somewhere else as opposed to staying at Texas. So, a lot of decisions need to be made by those guys. Shadur Sanders, like you said, is an interesting case. Like, Does he want to stay in? He's a guy I think is going to stay in because I think he and his dad both feel that he wants to be a top 10 pick. He's not going to be a top 10 pick this year. Almost guaranteed he's not going to be a top 10 pick this year. Travis Hunter has to stay another year. You have all-world wide receiver out there, right? And so you have an all-world wide receiver. Your dad's the coach. Your team's getting better. You got to assume that your offensive line's going to be a little bit better next year too. And so you say, let's stick it through one more year, try to get some Heisman buzz, and then try to be a top 10 pick next year and come out next year with Travis Hunter at the same time. I just, but that's an interesting question. Is Shedeur Sanders going to come out or not? And so those questions, and of course, there's a long way to go with that stuff. But it is interesting to kind of see how the draft is going to shake up and then what the Patriots are going to do, even if they get the number 2 pick. How does that affect the Patriots and what do they decide to do?
Yeah. And then, I'd mentioned this before on here too. What they decide to do if they pick at number 2, it's probably a new GM. And, how does he feel about whatever quarterback is going to be available? They're assuming one of these guys, May or Caleb Williams, goes at number 1. How does he feel about the guy at number 2? How does he feel about the scouts that he didn't hire in their evaluations?
Right.
I think, especially with how many holes the Patriots have on this roster, I think trading down is probably a smart thing. I know those are hated words here in New England, but it's one of those spots you need a lot of ammo. And if you're in a quarterback spot in the draft and you don't like the quarterback on the board, trading down can net you a huge, huge return. I'm not a Drake May fan. I'd rather trade down the draft to Drake May. I'll tell you that right now. But if you can, find a way to move down from, let's say they pick 2nd to 7th, pick up an extra first next year and a 2nd rounder in there and a 2nd rounder this year type of thing for a move like that, whatever it would end up being. I think that's probably better for you. And you can still get, some elite talent this year. If you're picking in the top 10, not Marvin Harrison Jr., but there are other really good receivers. And take a swing on the 2nd round quarterback.
Well, and that was, I released my first mock draft on Thanksgiving. It came out. And, that's what I had them doing. At number 3, they trade down to 10, pick up an early 2nd round pick and get a 2025 first round pick. And to me, those are the types of things where it's like, I know you don't want to trade down. I get it. I understand we don't want to trade down. As Patriots fans, we don't want to look at this and, okay, we're trading down because you want to draft the guy that's there. But if you can get a haul like that, then why not? I mean, look at who was at 3? Miami was at 3. They trade back to 12 with San Fran to pick up 3 first-round picks.
And those first rounders, I think, turned into Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey for them.
So that's what I mean. Like, it's like, what are we talking about? And then at 12, they drafted, didn't they draft Waddle at 12?
Yeah.
Or did they move up to draft Waddle?
I think they traded back and they moved back up. Yeah.
Right. But either way, it's like, you end up with Jalen Waddle. And it's like, when, like you say, you trade one of the first round picks for Tyreek Hill. Like, you need more assets. You need more assets, right? And so I don't. Oh, that's right. Matt said it, which he's right. They moved up to 6. They traded a first round pick and moved up to 6 to draft Waddle. But nevertheless, they traded their own first round pick and moved up, but had those multiple first round picks and were able to do that. So I just
it worked out well for him.
It did. And then, like you say, you have that other first round pick that you trade for Tyreek Hill, and it's like, well, now you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the same team, and you feel like Tua is now good enough. So, look, I'm not saying the Patriots are going to turn it around that quick, but I am saying that, like, even if they end up at 2, it doesn't mean they have to take it. They have to draft the guy at number 2. You know what I mean? It just that's one of the things for me. And look, maybe Marvin Harrison's the guy. Marvin Harrison Jr. looks incredible. He looks like the best player I've ever seen. Like, he was unbelievable.
I think he might be the best player in the draft. And you know what? If you're not sold on the quarterbacks and Marvin Harrison Jr. is there's a certain part of me that's just like, take him. Don't overcomplicate it. They've messed things up here at points by overcomplicating it. Take a guy who might be a top 10 receiver in the NFL the first day he stepped onto the field and go from there. Because if you go out there and you keep the offensive line together, you sign a guy like Baker Mayfield and you draft Marvin Harrison Jr., those moves alone, plus keeping the band together, might be enough to make this a 7-win team next
Yeah.
year, and you're moving in the right direction. And then you go from there and you see where it takes you.
100%. And by the way, I shouldn't do this because I'm going to write about it. But I'm going to do it anyways. I'm going to tell you right now. All right. Trade a 4th-round pick to the Chicago Bears for Justin Fields. Come on. That's so good.
See, though,
it's so good. They're going to have the number 1 pick. They're going to draft Caleb Williams. What do you got Justin Fields for? What do you need Justin Fields for? He's in the last year of his deal.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, what the hell? Give it a shot.
Yeah. I don't know.
And then if you draft a quarterback, you draft a quarterback. But if you don't, you have a kid, you see what happens with him, give him a year. If he sucks, well, then he sucks. And you whiffed on him, but you get another top 5 pick and you're able to draft your quarterback the next year.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, too, that I would think about here is similar, but not quite the same move. If you're picking at 2 and Arizona's at 3, and they want whatever quarterback is going to be there at 2 because they're ready to move off of Kyler Murray, and you can move back a spot and get Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. If you can find a way to make something like that happen, I'm in. I mean, I don't know how good Murray is. I think that's still up for debate here if he's a franchise guy. But, you can get him without any of the bonus money attached and be able to cut him, and you're getting a former number 1 overall pick for a relatively cheap draft acquisition there and a receiver. I don't know exactly what the structure of that deal would look like, but that's something I think you'd have to consider.
That's a really good point. I like
if that is what it comes down to.
I mean, look, we're sitting over here talking about, draft strategy and it's, not even December yet. So we're down bad. Patriots fans are down bad right now.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's really hard.
It's not great. And, what we're looking at here are options for bridge quarterbacks, guys who can be a quarterback for a season while you figure it out. And if they're good, they're good. And if not, you were planning to move off of them at some point anyway. That's probably what Murray is. Murray is kind of in the Jared Goff tier of guy who you're just taking because nobody else wants him, and you see if you can do something with him. And you go from there. I will say that we got one positive from today, and that's that I think Ramondre has gotten better with each week. He started off the year, I think, banged up and not looking great. They should at least have a running back 1 to feel good about going into next season. And that's not a lot. But
no, I know. And he'll be in the last year of his deal. And so they're going to have to make a decision about, do they want to sign him to an extension? Do they not? Like, what, how are they, what are they going to do? Right. And so, but it's a decision that needs to be made at some point anyways. But knowing that you have a player like that for next year is certainly helpful. And look, you talk about the Texans, man. The Texans are doing it. Dameon Pierce obviously is a rookie last year and has played okay, but he's been hurt a lot. And, then you look at guys like Devin Singletary, who's in there, who was a castaway from the Bills and has been incredible. So it's like you just don't know. You don't know how things are going. And KT, I'm glad we make no sense. So see you later. Thanks for coming through. Appreciate you. But we'll see. John's asking about the Eagles-Buffalo game. It's a good game. It's only 7-0 right now in the pouring rain, looks like, in Philadelphia. But if I had to pick, I would say, if I had to choose that game, I would say it's probably going to be the Eagles that win that game. I think Eagles are a better team than Buffalo.
Buffalo's so weak in the middle right now. Their linebacker room, I think, got decimated by injuries. And
it's rough.
Yeah.
How about this? Field Gates just tweeted out, the Chiefs' last 8 offensive drives have totaled 150 yards. Talk about a lull, dude. Jeez,
that's wild. I got 2 things here. One, we talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. We haven't talked at all about the irony of him. Dad's a Colts legend playing in New England of all places. And I had texted Pat this the other day, but I was just the hypothetical scenario of the Patriots draft Marvin Harrison Jr. and in 2-3 years, whatever it is, they finally land their quarterback of the future, and it's Arch Manning, and you get Manning and Harrison together in New England. That would be really, really funny and would make some people mad. I think it would be very funny to be Indy and the Giants in the playoffs with that too. That'd be
crazy, wouldn't it?
That would be
Thanks
a
for coming,
very good
Choo.
time.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Yeah. And
it's just
I remember
it's crazy.
I got one other thing, and I'm gonna forget it if I don't say it now.
Do it. Do it.
One of the things I'd said before the season, looking at the schedule, was that I kind of felt like the Patriots' division record is what was going to tell us about this team. I thought, 2 wins or fewer, they're not a playoff team. 4 wins or more, and they're probably in 3 wins, and they're a bubble team.
Yeah,
we're looking at a scenario right now where the Pats might go 3-3 in the division, and those are their only 3 wins on the season.
It's crazy.
500 in the AFC East, not a win outside of it.
It's crazy.
I don't know what to do with that information. The NFL is weird, but hey, at least the schedule ahead too. At least we get a throwbacks game next week against the Chargers. The red jerseys are back.
Yeah, that's right.
That will be. I'm guessing that might be. If Patriots win, that's probably the Brandon Staley gets fired week.
If the Patriots win that game, I mean, Brandon Staley's got to get fired if the Patriots win.
Yeah, that's one of those where he's touching down in LA and cleaning out his office there. Steelers after that on a Thursday night,
which I'll be at that
home. Chiefs at home on a Monday night. At Denver on a Sunday. So it's a 1:00 game against the Chargers, and then 3 primetime games, and then you get Bills and Jets to finish it out. Which in theory, the Patriots can still go 4-2 in the AFC East, and I think that would be very funny.
It would be, but then they'd have like the number 5 pick. All right, so who knows?
It's not good for the future of the team, but
But it would be funny. You're right. If they were above 500 in the AFC East and their only 4 wins of the season with those 4 games, and they finished 4-13, that'd be insane.
And that's I want this team's bad. And I want them to have a high draft pick because I think they need it. But also, I can't get mad about them, beating AFC East teams. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. By the way, Alex Barth just tweeted this out, and so I will read this to you. It is outrageous. He said, per Pro Football Reference, there have been 110 instances since the start of the 2021 season of a team allowing under 62 or less than or equal to 62 points. 62 points or less in a 4-game stretch. 41 of those times, the team went 4-0. 51 of those times, the team went 3-1. 15 of those times, the team went 2-2. 2 of those times, the team went 1-3. The Patriots have done that, and they've gone 0-4. 62 points they've allowed in 4 games, and they've gone 0-4.
Well, and this is the thing that in some ways, I think if we want to have a note of optimism here, the thing that should make you feel better is that in the last 5 games here, 6 games here, every single game since that Saints won, it's been a 1-score game late in the 4th quarter. And the Patriots have had a chance. And they just, outside of the Bills game, they've been completely unable to execute. Look at this. It's 1-score loss to the Eagles, 1-score loss to the Dolphins, 1-score win against the Jets, loss to the Raiders, win over the Bills. Dolphins ended up being 2 scores by the end, but 1 score to the Commanders, 1 score to the Colts, 1 score to the Giants. If you look back through Patriots history, you look at the 5-11 2000 Patriots that turned around and became a Super Bowl champ the next year. That team had a string of 1-score losses. They were awful in close games. And, even with just some luck, that can flip around on you. I think the Patriots have gotten I think this is genuinely a bad Patriots team. I also think they are a very, very unlucky Patriots team, both when it comes to injuries and late game performance. And the late game performance, I think, has been a continuation of what they've done the first 55 minutes of the game. I mean, a lot of these are low-scoring, ugly games, and the offense never finds a gear, and the opponent finds it once, and that's the difference. But you make the right moves this offseason, and you can go from a 2 or 3 win or a 4 win team or whatever they end up being this year to a 7, 8, 9 win team. Just you get some things going in your favor and things change. Obviously, they can also bottom out and
100%.
Worse. You never know. Well,
I think the whole thing for me, right, is that it comes down to the quarterback you draft and the coach that you hire, right?
Yep. Because
you look at the difference right now between Houston and Carolina, right? Houston drafts CJ Stroud. They hire D'Amico Ryans.
Mm-hmm.
They're making a playoff push, right? They lost today, but they played well against, a good Jacksonville team, right? Okay, fine. So, okay. Then you look at Carolina, who hired Frank Reich, a cast off from Indianapolis. They draft Bryce Young, who hasn't looked good. And Frank Reich, I'm sorry, he's not a good coach. He's just not a good coach. You see some of the offensive play calling, you're like, what the hell is going on over there? And so, yes, of course, it has to do with getting the guys, but you also have to get the right coach in as well. Draft the right quarterback, hire the right coach. This is the biggest offseason in Patriots history since I don't even know, in a long, long time, because this now is what's the future going to look like, right? And it's all on Kraft.
And I think it's also important to note when looking at those two guys that the Panthers have, their receivers are an aging Adam Thielen and Terrace Marshall, who I did not like coming out. I was not a fan of his, and he has not played well. And the Texans got Nico Collins, who they've developed very nicely, and Tank Dell, who's been an immediate success. And the Panthers thought they had their left tackle and Aquanu, and he has not played that well this year. Yeah, the Texans had a franchise left tackle, and I think just some of those differences. I think there's coaching, and I think there's the actual quarterback play where Stroud has been better. But I also think the Texans have done a much better job around the quarterback position, and that's what makes me worried about the Patriots drafting a quarterback. Is that Stroud's going into a situation where he's got Nico Collins in there as a developmental guy. The equivalent in New England is Tyquan Thornton. Does anybody think Tyquan Thornton's going to become what Nico Collins has been next year? No, that's not happening. Yeah, Demario Douglas might be able to be a Tank Dell type guy, and they got Dalton Schultz. I think you can replicate that tight end play, but you need to get lucky in there. You got to find your Nico Collins this year in the second round or the first round or wherever it is that you're going to go draft a wide receiver. And
it doesn't mean you can't sign someone, right? It doesn't mean you should also be for someone as well.
Also sign. Yeah, it's gonna have to be. I mean, there are so few players of this offense who I think should be back on this team next year.
Yeah,
because I think the thing that's become obvious too is not only are some of these players not good, the fact that some of these guys have been there for 3 different coaches and have seemingly not understood the offense at any point, or at least 2 different coaches. All right, it's not the coaching; it's that these guys, like Bill O'Brien, he's not a perfect offensive coordinator, and I have some issues with him, but he knows what he's talking about, and he is a good teacher. If you got guys who have been NFL professionals who couldn't pick up what they were doing last year and can't pick up what they're doing this year, you should have no reason to have faith that they're going to pick up what the next guy is doing.
It's bad. It's bad.
Yeah. I do have a quote here, by the way.
Okay, let's get it.
This is from Jabril Peppers in the locker room after the game on the hit on Pop Douglas.
Yep.
Quote, "It's just crazy. They preach all this player safety stuff, but that doesn't get flagged. But I've been fined maybe 2 or 3 times for clean hits. So that pissed me off too. They even looked up at the Jumbotron and there was still no flag. But you can't say anything about the refs in this league. It is what it is. To me, that's a joke. You can't say you care about player safety and not flag that play." I think the last line is the most important one there.
100%. And it's important to remember, the NFL doesn't actually care about player safety. Like, they don't. They can say that they do. They don't actually care about player safety. I'm sorry.
They care about the appearance of player safety.
And someone said this, and I'm going to take credit for it because I can't remember who it was that said it. But they said the NFL is making all of these ridiculous fines and calls for a very good reason. Because when they go to negotiate with the NFL Players Association, the NFLPA is going to be focused on these things and not on the things that the NFL actually cares about, which is playing more games and getting more money and doing that. So the players are going to say, "Hey, look, you can't keep fining us $40,000 for hits that are legal hits. What are you doing?"
And they'll say, we'll get rid of that and exchange. We had an extra.
That's it. That's 100%.
It's a negotiating tactic there, and it's that coupled with the fact that it's also like they want to have the appearance of caring about it. They want to be able to say to any lawsuit that happens about player safety or to any media person that says, "Hey, we did this thing," and And the reality is most people are casual fans of the NFL, and they've never looked into this stuff. And they're going to say, oh, man, that was a brutal hit. And they're going to say, oh, he got fined for it later. And they're going to say, oh, okay, that's good. The NFL's doing something. And they're not going to think twice about it. And that's the NFL knows that, and they're going to take advantage of that fact.
Yep.
So,
and JJ Watt's been on it all. I mean, credit to JJ Watt. He's been on all year long. I'm glad
he said something, because I was watching some of these clips thinking this is wild, but I'm not an NFL player, and maybe there is merit to some of these fines, and I'm just not understanding it. But him coming out of it makes me feel more confident, in my opinion, that this is wild. By the way, the Chiefs are down 2 scores to the Raiders right now. It's going to be one score in this stack, maybe, but
probably not necessarily though. Hunter Henry, by the way, zero catches for 0 yards today by Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry.
Let me tell you.
For 0.
I was writing out my prop bets column for Pat's Pulpit.
Yep.
And I had the over on Hunter Henry yards, and then I changed it at the last second to the over on Ramondre Stevenson rushing yards. And boy, am I glad I did that.
By the way, speaking of that, prop bets, you went 1-1 and I went 1-1. I had we already talked about this. I had the Miami Dolphins anytime touchdown. Miami Dolphins defense anytime touchdown. Which is outrageous that hit on the most insane play of all time. And then Keegan, for you, last week had the no to 3 straight scores by anyone in this game, in this Patriots game, which is which was plus money, by the way, which is complete insanity that was plus money. Yeah,
I love that.
There were literally 3 scores all game.
Going back to that Dolphins defensive score real quick.
Yeah.
Man, that might be the worst executed Hail Mary I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Because in the Hail Mary, it's not just like 4 guys running down for a jump ball. There's like positions in it, and there's roles for where people are supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's basically supposed to be like one guy who's going for the ball, one guy behind him to catch any deflection that way, one guy in front to catch any deflection that way, and then just like another guy in the scrum going for it. Yeah. And not a single player got near the football.
No.
And when Javon Holland catches that football, the 3 fastest guys on the Jets are behind him in the end zone out of the play. Yeah. Well, it's a lot easier to run that back when it's you versus the 5 most unathletic guys on the other team. Yeah. Like that's it's just the sheer incompetence there to not be able to run a basic Hail Mary. That's not on the quarterback. That's 100% on the receivers for not being able to make any play on the catch play.
Sure.
And I'll credit Garrett Wilson for running I think a total of 170 something yards on the play down to the goal line,
almost made the
all
play
the way back, and almost Ben Watson did. But hilarious play.
By the way, the Bills just took the lead against the Eagles 10-7, and the Chiefs have 3rd and goal at the 1-yard line. So we'll see what the Chiefs can do. But
for anybody listening to this tomorrow, I'm sure that'll be in or later on. You get to hear the score updates. I'm sure you'll like that.
Yep. So
our thoughts are on.
Anyways, all right, that's it. I can't talk about this game anymore, man. Yeah. We'll be back later on this week to I guess discuss the Chargers, I suppose, and what they're going to do this year and all this crap. But
you know what we are going to do, Pat? For anybody listening, you see our Twitter handles there. Send us any mock drafts that you do between now. Our show's on Wednesday night. Send us any screenshots of any mock drafts you do between now and Wednesday night. And we'll take a look at some of the best ones. We'll pull them up on the show Wednesday night. And I think we're going to start doing this on the Wednesday shows. We'll start looking at mocks that people send in.
I love it. Let's get the mock draft started early. Fire up the mock draft machine. Get out there.
I've got it. During this episode, Pat, I opened a tab of PFF to get the mock draft machine going after.
I love it. So good. It's so good. And by the way, Freddie B's asking about Marvin Harrison Jr. He really is that good. He's 100% that good. I promise you.
Really,
he's not just a possession receiver. He's fast. He's an incredible route runner. He's the best receiver in football, and it's not really close.
And the only reason I think I would be okay trading out of a spot where Marvin Harrison Jr. is available is because some of the other receivers in this draft also look freakishly good. Malik Neighbors is still the one that comes to mind for me down in LSU with what he's done with Jaden Daniels there. And, you know, if you're trading back from 2 to 8 and you can still get Neighbors, not that I think Neighbors is better than Marvin Harrison Jr., but I think if you could get, I would take Neighbors and additional draft picks over just Marvin Harrison Jr.
Right.
Personally, I think that's up for debate, but
Yeah, I don't know.
Time to get
But
into
anyways.
some college film in the next couple weeks.
That's
A
right.
couple months. I'm gonna be
That's right, baby.
living in that.
So
Go
anyways.
Cardinals pick.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yikes! That looked like a Bailey Zappi throw. Jesus. The hell was that? It was behind Puka Nakua. Well, it was behind even. I mean, I guess he was throwing to Puka Nakua, but that was behind where he even was.
You know what the funniest thing I saw the other day was, Pat?
What's that?
This is during the Thanksgiving game. So, the Lions, Goff looks good there, but that may be nearing, its ceiling of what he can do. And I'm saying the Lions are a team that I think could win a Super Bowl, but they need a quarterback. They need, a gunslinger who can come in there and take the ceiling off that offense and be able to propel them into the future. You know who the Lions need, Pat? Matthew Stafford.
Oh, Matthew Stafford.
I don't think Stafford's that guy anymore, but yeah, just a little bit, just for a little bit. That would be really funny if the Goff Stafford trade, reversed itself.
That's crazy. Yeah,
just swap those two quarterbacks back and forth.
So,
but yeah, all right. Is that a show for us?
That is it. I gotta go. Jesus Christ, I gotta go. It's the way it goes.
Okay, hold on. To Nagan in the chat saying, would you pass on Gronk for Hunter Henry and an additional draft pick? I believe Gronk was a second round pick and Hunter Henry was a first round pick. No? Or Hunter Henry was early second?
I think Hunter Henry was also a first round pick. A second round pick, I think. I don't think he was a first round pick.
Gronk was a second round pick, so every single team passed on Gronk once in there. Gronk is a prospect that's not even at all what Marvin Harrison Jr. is.
That is correct. Henry was taken 35th overall. I believe that Gronk was like 40.
46,
let's see, 42,
45, 42. Okay.
Well, how about that?
Yeah. So Gronk got taken later than Hunter Henry. So I understand the example, but I don't think those are the right people I would put in those spots. Right. And I think Hunter Henry is also was always kind of a average tight end.
I get his point. Right? His point is that he's that good, right? I don't know.
No, and I get the point. The reason I'm saying is that Malik Neighbors is also very high up there. It's like he could be a Justin Jefferson type guy, and there have been a lot of scenarios. There was a surefire guy in the top 10 and another guy drafted in the teens who was questionable, and the guy in the teens ends up being way better. That's a relatively common occurrence. So
yep. I also think it's wide receiver. Like, if you don't have the best wide receiver in the league, but you have a very, very good wide receiver, it's one thing to have a crap wide receiver. If your wide receiver turns out to be very, very good and they're not the best player in the draft, well, that's still okay, because your team, you have so many holes in this team. They need a lot of things. And so getting extra draft picks to take another wide receiver that could also be very good, to me, isn't a bad thing. So
yeah, anyways. It wouldn't be a bad thing to take Marvin Harrison Jr. either. Like, I do think this is up for debate. And it's not going to be mad if they take him. I'll tell you that much.
Yep. So, all right, that's our show. We're out of here. So yes, send us your mock drafts, and we will look at them on the show on Wednesday and discuss. And I guess we'll talk about the Chargers and the ongoing tank, I guess, is what we'll call it.
The Brandon Staley effect.
The ongoing tank. That just I'll tell you, man. I'll tell you. I think the Chargers are going to find a way to freaking lose this game because Brandon Staley's so bad.
Yeah, I've had this one marked as like a sure win for a while, regardless of the records of the teams, because it does feel like that kind of game.
Piss everybody off if the Patriots win this game. But listen, we talked about this, but I've mentioned it before, but I can never root for the Patriots to lose. I was sick to my stomach when they lost the game today. Sick to my friggin' stomach when they lost the game. Number one, I wanted Chad Allen to hit it for him, but also because I want to see the Patriots win. But then as soon as the Patriots game is over, then you say, well, hey, at least they got the draft pick, right? Like, it's bad. And this is as bad as it can be. As bad as it's been, certainly with Belichick, for sure, obviously, right? I mean, this is a team that hasn't lost 10 games since 2000. So, they're just not.
We might get it, and we might be less than a week away from that.
Right. So
Yeah.
But
All right.
anyways, all right. Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it, and we will be back with you on Wednesday night. Hopefully, doing some mock draft content as well.
Let's do it.